All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Curriculum's February webinar, AI and Your Child's Future. I'm really excited about this. I think it's a conversation that really needs to be had. I think it's something that we can no longer prolong the conversation. And I'm really excited to guide you through this important conversation on artificial intelligence, and how it's really shaping education, different career opportunities, and the skills that our children are going to need to be successful in the future. So before we begin, just a few housekeeping items. Probably only going to be just about an hour. I'm not trying to hold everybody on too long. Feel free to drop questions in the chat. We do have our host and our one of our guest speakers is going to be here for the Q&A. Y'all know her, Miss Natalia Kennedy. And then we also have Kimberly Coulter. She will be coming on, joining us a little bit later. You will be able to rewatch this recording on YouTube by the end of this week. So just sit back, take your notes. I have my coffee because this is Coffee and Curriculum. I have my coffee with me. So let's just go ahead and get started. So it is a very overwhelming thing that's going on right now, where culture and technology and society is changing every single week. Every single week, there's something new popping up, and we really almost can't catch up to it. And it could be very alarming, especially when you are a parent, guardian, or caretaker for someone in the K-12 education system here in the United States. So it's only natural that you would want the best for your child. So this webinar is really just going to help you understand how AI is transforming education and how you can support your child's learning. Even though things may be uncertain right now in the educational space, in the political climate, there's a lot of things going on. But really, hopefully, this will help you gain some insight of some basic AI, its role in creating equitable learning opportunities and different strategies you can use for your child's future. So the first thing we're going to get into is really understanding AI and what you need to know. So the definition of AI is it refers to computer systems that mimic human intelligence to perform tasks like problem solving, learning, and decision making. So some examples would be chatbots and virtual assistants like Siri or Alexa, personalized learning tools in the classroom, and also AI-powered job recruitment and career planning tools. That's just a very, very few of it. In the last webinar last month, we talked about how AI is using algorithms for Netflix and YouTube and Hulu. AI is not something that is brand new. It just looks different because of how fast it's evolving. So it's really important to remember that AI is not here to replace humans, even though there are a lot of people who may want to push that agenda. The optimistic answer that I have for you, so we won't speak of any fear here, is that it's not here to replace humans, but it's really here to enhance our capabilities. So the key thing for parents and guardians and caretakers is to prepare your child to interact with AI, but also leverage AI responsibly. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So AI in education, is it a friend or is it a foe? Do we like AI? Do we not like AI? Some people are trying to hop on the bandwagon. Some people are trying to figure out, do I like it or not? So AI is playing an increasing role in education. It is no longer an option. It has to be included in education. So there are both benefits and challenges. So some of the benefits to it is personalized learning. So what AI does, it can adapt to a student's learning style. And of course, there's various different learning styles. If you don't know your child's learning style, that's something that you could talk to your child about, talk to their teacher about as well. And what AI does is it provides a personalized, tailored instruction to help the student better understand the material and what they're learning in school. Another benefit is accessibility. So with AI, it can really assist children with disabilities by offering like speech to text tools, real-time translations for multilingual students, adaptive learning for anybody who may need that. So there really are a lot of positives when it comes to accessibility, which is something that education didn't have even in the beginning of the pandemic, which was 5 years ago now. Another benefit is efficiency. So there's the child side, the parent side, and now there's also the teacher side. So you want your teacher to have a good quality on their end so they can better teach your child. So with efficiency, AI can help teachers grade assignments more effectively, and provide better feedback. So if you have a student to teacher ratio of 1 to 25 in a K-12 education system, that's a lot of students, and maybe they won't be able to receive quality feedback, which also doesn't help when they bring homework back home. So what AI does, it can help them grade assignments in a more efficient way. Now, some of the challenges, though, there's privacy concerns. And again, we talked about this last month. There is no AI policy that is regulated right now in the United States. Of course, we have to bring up the conversation of the U.S. Department of Education being dismantled, and how that affects privacy concerns when it comes to technology and our children, especially when they are under the age of 18 or may not really know fully how powerful technology can be. So AI collects student data at some point. Sometimes, depending on where you live in the country, they may collect it, they may not. But of course, because there is no policy regulation, we don't know the privacy limitations and metrics that are being used for our children's information. There's raising concerns about security as well, which is definitely understandable as a parent. There's also this concern of over-reliance on technology, whereas when we were in school, books, the library, textbooks. I think Wikipedia just started becoming a thing, but our teachers were like, absolutely no Wikipedia, you cannot use it. So we had to go find scholarly articles. We actually had to read them and things like that. Whereas now, technology is the information pops up within the matter of seconds, not minutes. It doesn't take a few hours, it takes seconds for children to get information now, which can be very overwhelming, especially if you're in like that elementary, middle school age. So while AI is helpful, there's this concern of missing that human interaction and critical thinking, which has to remain in our human society if we're really going to deal with this new AI that's coming up. And then the last thing is bias in AI. So some AI systems reinforce biases for different groups, for people of color. So it's really important to teach your children to question AI generated content. If they Google something and it pops up, tell them, don't just take AI's word for it because it's a machine, it's not a human. Tell them to question it. Did you find a second source that matches it? If you didn't, now start thinking about that. So then on your end, as the parent, it can help you teach your children those critical thinking skills. So some reflection questions just for my audience to think about is, how is AI being used in your child's classroom? Do you even know? Has a teacher ever mentioned it? Do they talk about it in open house anymore? How schools are prioritizing digital literacy and responsible AI use. Are they teaching it at all? Because digital literacy is something that we really need to start pushing for our students. We think because they live in a high technology environment that they automatically have digital literacy, and that's not the case. Just like us reading literacy, you had to teach them the phonetic sounding words and sounds and vowels in order for them to get to the next step on how to read full sentences. Just because we speak, the English language around our children, there's an automatic assumption that they understand what we're saying, and that's just not the case. The same thing applies to digital literacy. And then, of course, how can you make sure that schools and your home are balancing AI-driven learning with traditional skills? So a lot of times it can be easy to just think about the technology part, but not incorporating the traditional skills that maybe you grew up with, or maybe their grandparents grew up with, or aunts and uncles and things like that. So this is for really like the not middle school, but more so the high school students, where AI and the future careers, what skills children need. There is a shift happening where the same careers that were offered to us is no longer important, and they're actually declining. So now you really want to look at, how is AI reshaping the job market? So if you have your child saying, I want to work as a post clerk, by 2030, that job may be eliminated, to be quite honest with you. So AI is expected to automate some jobs while creating new ones as well. But there's other things that they need in order to keep up with this changing job market. So one of the things is critical thinking. Teaching kids to analyze information and think independently is so crucial. Your child will stand out when they know how to analyze something, not just kind of be lectured at and fed information, but when they are taught to break it down and analyze it, then their critical thinking skills will just increase. And that is, you have to start that at a pretty young age as well. Creativity and innovation. AI can automate tasks and do a lot of great things. I use AI quite literally all the time. However, human creativity remains invaluable. You have to teach your children to use that creative side and be innovative. Have them make things on their own without using technology, and then say, okay, how do you think AI would say it? And then you'll notice your child might say, oh, I actually like my idea better than the AI's idea. So you want to make sure that you're promoting that creativity within them. Another thing is emotional intelligence. I feel like that's a bandwagon word now. Like everybody knows what, like, oh, emotional intelligence. But really, emotional intelligence doesn't have to only be in one category. Careers involving human interaction, so like counseling, for example, leadership positions, and of course, teaching, that's always going to be in demand. To me, that's my personal opinion. It's always going to be in demand. We're always going to need counselors on any level. We're always going to need leadership roles, not bosses, but leadership roles. In order to do that, if you want your child to be that leader, you have to teach them emotional intelligence. That's going to be crucial. And then, of course, the last thing is STEM and AI literacy. Now, a lot of times, STEM is often, it's a little bit more popular now, but STEM was not popular growing up for me. And if you were in STEM, you were considered a nerd, and it was like, nobody wants to do that. And it's like, I'm brushing it to the side. Now it's like, oh, let me pay attention to these STEM journal science articles that's being pushed out, because I may have to switch careers because that's what's going on right now. So understanding things like coding, data science, and AI ethics, that's going to be very essential when it comes to what your children is going to need for skills in the future. So I know you're hearing me and you're like, this is a lot of information to digest, and that's okay. How can you help? I know you're saying like, okay, this seems like I don't really know how I fit into this role. What you can do is you can expose STEM activities like coding workshops to your child. There's so many resources out there. It doesn't seem like there is, but there's so much out there. And not sometimes you may have to pay, but now because of technology and webinars such as this, people do offer a lot of free things. So look and see what are some free resources out there, especially if you have more than one child and you want 4 kids taking coding classes that cost like $300. That's just a lot of money, breaking the bank. So try to see what other limited, more affordable or free resources they have for things like that. And it doesn't have to only be coding. That's just an example. Another thing is problem solving games like that enhance logical thinking. What are some games that you can play with them? You can even ask AI to help you come up with the games. They don't have to know, but it's just looking at how you can figure out what can I do with my child to help them with these skills? Having open discussions with them about the ethical impact of AI in society. Having an open dialogue with them is going to be very important. And to be quite honest with you, not many um, not many children may know what is going on with AI. It's just something that's buzzing around. You know what I mean? When we grew up, we heard things about like the recession. I was in eighth grade. I didn't know what the recession meant. I just knew it was something about money in the houses. And it was a big election between McCain and Obama. That's all I know. I didn't know what was happening. But you need to have an open dialogue with them to tell them this is what's happening in the world and bring it to whatever level they are at. And of course, getting into that, explain it in their terms for their world. A lot of times we try to adapt our children to our world. And it's like, hey, listen, this is reality. It is what it is. That's just, life is hard. Life is lifing. But we have to switch our mindset to talking to them in their terms, not using certain words and breaking it down for them and putting it for their world, right? Their world is different from ours. I didn't grow up with social media in kindergarten. I called my friends on the phone and I had to, there's just certain things that it's two completely different generations. So you want to make sure that you are adapting to their world as well. Okay. So encouraging AI literacy at home is going to be very important. Let's start off with elementary K through 5 first. So the average elementary student, kindergarten through 5th grade, okay, ages 6 to 5th grade, 11, right? 10, 11, I'm assuming, something like that. I think I'm getting the ages mixed up. But that's pretty much what elementary school is. So you don't need to be a tech expert to really introduce these AI concepts to your child. For younger children, storybooks. Everybody loves storybooks. I haven't met a kid who does not like storybooks. I really haven't. I used to teach pre-K, kindergarten, 1st grade, the little ones. I haven't seen not one kid who was not excited during the story time. So look at what storybooks are out there about AI and technology. If there's not, maybe you could make your own storybook. There is no limit. Having hands-on activities like toys, Legos, building things with their hands. Kids like to do stuff with their hands because they have all that energy. So when you are doing that at home, you have the Legos, let's say, on the dining room table, and you're like, okay, we are going to talk about, we're going to build these blocks, and this is what AI looks like. And we're going to build these blocks, and this is what books looks like. And then they're going to battle, and they're going to fight. There's so many things that you can do with it. Now, for the middle schoolers, that's like grades 6 to 8, it's a little bit different, where now they're using AI-powered educational apps like Duolingo, maybe Google Lens, depending on your district, depending on where they are. Those are the type of things that they're going to be using in school. So try encouraging a conversation with them and ask them, so tell me, how does this AI tool work? I think students come as a shock when their parents become suddenly interested in learning something new, and they're like, oh, they want to learn. This is how you do it, mom, or this is how you do it, dad, or this is how you do it, grandma, or whoever. I think once you open up that conversation, I think they're going to be more willing to open up about it at home. Now, for my high school students, some may be going to college, some may be doing a gap year, some may be going traveling, it just depends what they do after high school. But it is important for those 4 years, you have to talk about how can they explore AI related courses like on Coursera or Khan Academy. Encourage things like that for them to do outside of the homework that they get from school. And again, having that discussion. I know teenagers don't like to talk. I know that is not really like, at least not to their parents or maybe to somebody else. They'll talk to their peers. But I think if you do have a nice open conversation with them about real world AI issues, not just back in my day, we didn't have technology. They don't want to hear that. They're going to completely zone you out. So ask them, say, hey, what do you think about that Will Smith deep fake I saw on Instagram? They're gonna look at you like, what you know about that? Like, you know what? Catch them off guard. You know what I mean? Talk about the algorithmic biases that come up on Instagram and TikTok. You know, talk to them about, hey, TikTok, why do you think only this type of content pops up on my timeline compared to yours? They're going to be so excited that you're engaging in these conversations with them. They're going to be completely caught off guard. I guarantee you. Now we have to talk about ethical considerations. So teaching kids to think critically about AI. We did talk about this a little bit, bias in AI. AI isn't perfect. We think that it is. Sometimes we treat it like it is. It is not. So it's very important to teach your children to question and to learn and to understand how AI influences their world. So with AI models that are trained on certain data, that can contain a bias. So for example, if you play around in AI, now ChatGPT can generate images. I typed in ChatGPT, I want you to generate a cartoon. I think it was a cartoon character of me, or I typed in, I want you to generate an image of me. And I used ChatGPT enough for it to know who I am a little bit. And it produced an image of a Caucasian male. So I asked ChatGPT, I said, why did you make me Caucasian and a male, considering the type of content that I put on ChatGPT? And AI admitted that it has biases. It was it was a crazy experience, a crazy experience. So AI does more than you think. Your kids may know that AI does more. You just don't know. So it's very important to teach that. Misinformation. So AI generated content can spread false and misleading information. Talk to your children about that and say, hey, if I told you that so and so kicked this person in the leg, how would you feel about that? Be like, oh, well, I didn't do that. It's like, well, that's what happens when you spread false and fake and misleading information. It can hurt other people. Talk to them about that. Privacy and data concerns. So again, we talked a little bit about this in the beginning, but children should know, what does data tracking mean? You, as the parent and guardian, should know what data tracking means. You should know what cookies mean, and not chocolate chip, but the ones that pop up at the bottom and says, do you accept all cookies or you decline? Nobody ever reads that. That's your rights, your like digital rights at the bottom. Take the time to read it, because if your child goes on a website, if they're looking at something and you just press all cookies, you really don't know what you're setting your child up for. So really it's going to be important to teach children to, fact check AI generated information. Again, teach them, hey, this is what this looks like in a AI real world like issues, like using different news and the stories and things like that. But again, teach them to be mindful of data privacy. We have to teach that as well. So just a few tips for parents, guardians, and caretakers. I know it's really, again, sometimes it could be a little overwhelming because you're like, I'm working here, I'm doing this. By the time it's 4 o'clock, they've already eaten 10 snacks. And don't let it be a snow day. It's like, you're not even supposed to be in school. It was supposed to be a snow day today. There's no snow on the ground, but yet school was canceled. Why? I don't know. But it's hard to kind of get into a groove of thing, especially in the wintertime, depending on where you live. So I just want to give you all some tips that's going to help you really understand what's going on in your child's world. And this can be for anyone, whether you have a child in kindergarten, middle school, high school, it doesn't matter. These tips are going to help you for everything. So the first one, take a course, or if you're like me, I'm a researcher, research how to become AI literate yourself. There is absolutely no way you can expect you can expect your child to be AI literate and you are not. Back in the day, when I brought a math question home and my dad is looking at it and he's like, I can't help you with this. It was a little bit easier to be like, oh, okay, dad doesn't really know the answer. We got to figure it out on our own. You can't do that today. You have to know what's going on. You have to. It's like almost dangerous if you don't. There's a lot of stuff out there online. There is a lot of bad stuff online. There is, unfortunately, because technology is such a useful tool. People do use it for bad things, which I'm sure if you have children by now, you've had that conversation with them. But you have to be AI literate yourself, so that way when they come home and they talk about something that's alarming, and they said, "Hey, they're starting to make deep fakes of your children's face," you have to know how to fight that within your school system, within your district, to your mayor, to your council people. It's very important that you become AI literate yourself. Um, Stay informed about AI tools used in schools and communities. You have to ask your school, can I please see your AI policies? Can I please see what AI tools are being used in my child's classroom? Can I see the AI tools that they're going to use in the next grade? Because what happens is you'll have one AI tool that's pretty easy to use in kindergarten, and in first grade it's still easy, but then all of a sudden second grade happens, and what happens in second grade? They are starting to prepare for testing. And now when we have standardized testing in third grade and fourth grade and fifth grade and sixth grade, what happens is students start to fall behind digitally. So you have to make sure that you are staying informed and even a little bit in the future of what's going to be happening in the future for your child's AI use in school. Identify the different risks when it comes to over relying on AI. Teach your children about that and learn it for yourself. Encourage ethical use of AI. Tell them it's not cool to cheat. It's not cool to take something and say, oh, I wrote this. It's not a good feeling, right? Teach them that. And you could easily teach that as a lesson plan, like y'all. I have my teacher language came out. You could easily create something at home where you can say, hey, listen, this is what happens when you tell a story or a lie. This is what happens when you tell the truth. We're going to weigh them and see what happens. What happens when we do this? There's so many things that you can bring up to teach them about ethical use of technology. And highlight emerging career fields and skills that students need for success. So if you tell them, hey, listen, you want to buy something on your own, you want to stop using my money, these are the skills that you're going to need. Okay? Kids love money. Don't know what it is, but as soon as you bring up money and finances, all of a sudden their ears pick up. Yeah, I want to get that money. Oh, okay. These are the skills you need to get that money. Okay. At least that's what I teach my high school students. I'm like, y'all want to make it, y'all want to have money in the bag, whatever they say now. I'm like, you need to make sure that you have these skills. Because if you don't have these skills, that student over there is going to have those skills, and that student over there is going to have that money. You got to teach it in the language that they understand. So now that I have talked for quite some time, we are going to move over to our Q&A session. I see Kimberly has joined us, so welcome again. I love these two. They are not just intelligent, but they are very conscious and aware, and they are very big on continuous learning. So we've all been learning with this AI stuff together over the past year. So it's very encouraging to have people who are willing to do research and teach it back to our community. So I do have a few questions here. If you have extra questions, please put them in the chat. But the first question, I'm just going to pose it out there. Actually, I'm going to move this over. The first question I have here for both of you all is, how do you see AI's role in our children's future education? How do you see it? What do you think it would look like?
Hi, I see AI playing an ever increasing
Oh,
role
Kimberly,
in our
I
children's
see you're
future.
talking, but I don't hear you for some reason. Is it just
Don't hear me? Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, I can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for your participation for this event. I see AI as being a very ever increasing instrument and tool in our children's future. My background is in education. I was a former school teacher and school principal for one of the only STEM certified school in Genesee County, Michigan. And so, very well versed in terms of technology, science, engineering, math, etc. And to be on the cusp of AI and just trying to look and predict forward, I see it as being very instrumental and beneficial because our students are able to receive more customized learning. They'll have individual learning plans that play upon their strengths as well as their weaknesses. And so I'm excited for our future to help remediate some of the gaps that have been persistent in learning in school settings. And so I see AI as key to helping our students to make great strides.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Natalia, I don't know to take a crack at it, or if you want to move on to the next question, it's up to you.
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Natalia Kennedy. I'm more on the higher ed side, still on education, but as we know and as Kimberly knows as well, when you have your K through 12 education, it also moves up into higher ed. So we have to also be mindful because one carries the other. So I think when we just talk about our children's future, in education, when it comes to AI, but also when it comes to their career, we want to look at like personalized learning. We want to look at teacher support. We want to look at assessment. Assessment is really big when you're looking at all of these tools and doing all of these new age things. We want to make sure, what did it look like before? How are we doing it now? And what does it look like after? And assessment is very big. Teacher support is also a big thing that can help with our children's education in the future, because with that, we want to make sure that our teachers are well-rounded in the courses that they're taking with AI. They do the AI classes so they know, so that they can prepare the students as well. And just again, immerse yourself with learning. Um, just going through the motions of a lot of and virtual engaging learning experiences. So I think those can play a big difference with how it moves forward in our children's education in the future.
Absolutely. And I agree with both of them. Both of what they said was very much on point. My next question for you two, this one says, my child has a physical disability. How can I ensure my child's school is teaching them to use AI responsibly, and what can I do for them at home?
Mm-hmm. And I think it speaks to one of the things that Natalia spoke of, to be in communication with the school. Or actually, V had mentioned that as well. There's nothing about AI, the benefits of it, the proper usage of the tool. We want to make sure that we're, first of all, teaching those things to ourselves, learning those, and then teaching them to our kids, but also to ensure that we are in constant communication. There's no substitute for that. And so ongoing dialogue, meeting with the school staff, the teachers, et cetera, that's going to be absolutely critical.
Right, absolutely.
Just to kind of piggyback off of what she said, I think that, and also to piggyback off of what you said, Kavina,
Mhm.
meeting with the faculty and staff and educators, administrators, just to make sure that it aligns with the children's needs and learning goals, but also the biases when you talked about in the slide where it gave you a picture of someone that was not the same gender nor uh, color as you. We want to make sure that these AI tools are accessibility. They have great accessibility and they're not biased as well. So really just reaching out and making sure and doing a lot of stuff from home too. I think I'm not sure like nowadays it's because the world is so busy. Sometimes parents find it a little bit harder to hone in on those tools at home and practice those tools with their kids at home. So try having 5, 10 minutes and practicing with kids at home really will and working on it together. Because I find that when you work on those type of things together, it really is to learn it for a parent, you're learning a lot. And also as the student, you're learning a lot as well. So learning that together will make it more be more comfortable with how with using those tools.
Right, absolutely. And the big word for just to add in, I'm not the Q&A session speakers, but just to add on to that is for those who may have some type of disability, neurodivergent students, any student may be dealing with maybe a chronic illness. All of these things are they're going to impact how AI is being viewed as well when it comes to equity and inclusion. And it's something that you as a parent or a guardian, if you have anyone in your family, any child, that may be dealing with that, that's something to bring up to the school board at school board meetings. And it's also something to do your own research on, and also have community with other parents on Facebook as well. Facebook has a lot of different groups, and you never know, another parent may be having the same issue where there may be a lack of equity and accessible resources for students with different types of disabilities. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. My next question is, how does AI impact college admissions for students today? Ooh. Ooh.
So I'll start off by saying, so here are some of the benefits that I noticed with the whole college admission portion of it. So the application and the screening process, the analysis process is much more effective. You're able to access students' extracurricular activities. You're able to just it minimizes and pinpoints everything so graciously and it's very detailed. It's a AI. Another benefit is that it has a lot of personalized college guidance. And when I say that, I mean it helps students explore other schools. Let's say match their interests, improve their essays, so on and so forth. So it gives them that. But then also the last thing I would say is that I noticed, and I haven't really noticed it, it's something that I'm starting to notice and I'm keeping my eye on, is standardized tests. So with the AI helps admissions assess students beyond their standardized test scores, like written assignments, projects, digital portfolios. So, and I mean, and it really, because every school is requires something different. And so that's why I said I'm starting to notice it and keeping an eye on it simply because based on the school that you're in. So every college does their admissions process differently and things of that nature. But what some of the risks that I also we want to be careful of, and I've also noticed is that again, we talked about this before, the biases in the algorithm. So pull it will pull certain things like favorable demographics, or it will pull certain things based on historical data. Now, if the AI is up to date, is it up to date with the correct historical data? And we want to make sure we're pulling students from all different areas and all different avenues. Another thing is the over reliance of AI and for essays. So a lot of the times, and again, these students, they God bless their heart, but they will use something to the ground and they don't check anything. They don't. I cannot say so. I'm also an adjunct professor, and last semester, I gave a paper and it is an asynchronous class. So I said, okay, the least your paper can be is 5 pages. Someone produced a 17-page paper. And, at which point I had to have a conversation with my division director because when I saw 17 pages, I knew it was AI generated because there's no way as a student or as an adult learner, you are spending, I said 5 pages minimum, maximum, five maximum. You're giving me 17 as an adult learner? Absolutely not. So I we did have to have a conversation with that particular student, and we did have to have a conversation with my division director and the dean of students, because now it becomes plagiarism because you did not produce 17 pages. So when I say the over reliance of AI for essays, that's simply what I mean. To refer something or to refer to something or to research something, that's great. But when you're relying on that for every single essay, you're not proofreading, you're not checking, you're not backing anything up, you're sending these pages that are just way too long. This is where we need to kind of draw the line. And then the automatic decision making. So leaving it up to a lot of admissions counselors are leaving it up to the AI generated system just to admit the students. And we can't do that because we really have to take a second look, because there are things that we might miss from those students. Again, we're talking about demographics. We're talking about, college before it was just, okay, standardized tests. Now you have to be the whole package. Are you doing extracurricular activities? What do your grades look like? Do you have a job? Do you have a third leg? Like, I don't, like, you know what I mean? So it's so many things that they're looking at. So we have to make sure um, that we're doing that. I do just advise students to be authentic in their decision writing, research how colleges are using AI specific and the colleges that you're specifically looking at to generate AI, and then just focus on like holistic approaches. So like colleges, personal essays, and kind of go outside of the AI method. Not to say that you can't use it, but kind of like go outside and personalize it because everyone is different.
Wow. My my brain is oh, brain's going. As an adjunct professor myself, I'm starting to see AI more and more. And this is something we talked about last week is, do we have to change the definition of standards, plagiarism, the metrics of things, how we view students? Does that have to change? I think it does. I definitely think it does because I had two students very openly. Hey, I use AI in my paper for this, but how do I not overly use it? I don't think a lot of students really want to overly use it like that, but they just don't know how because it's just so accessible. It's so easy. It lifts a load off you. Um, and I think, that has to get changed. Now, for those with younger kids, um, it's just in their face. They can't help it. It's on commercials, it's on billboards, it's in TV. It's every Blue's Clues has an iPhone now. Like it's just everywhere. You can't hide from it. So no matter where you are, no matter how old your child is, really looking at how that affects their education every single year is so important and so crucial. If they do want to go to college, the things that Natalia said, that's something to look out for the future. Now, I do have one more question here is, oh, well, could you identify a significant challenge that generation beta, which is the new generation of kids being born this year, I believe, this year or last year, will have to face um, in a deeply IA generated world? It's a pretty heavy question, but
It is. And I think Natalia spoke to that in the previous question. I would say it's the over reliance on AI, being inundated, like you mentioned, even in cartoons, billboards, etc., is everywhere. And just teaching our kids uh, and giving them that confidence that, for example, if you're writing an essay, what we really want to hear is your voice. We want to get your perspective, which is absolutely invaluable. You're the essence of this essay, and we want you to shine, not artificial intelligence. It's almost like we use that as the icing on the cake. but what do you, such and such, what do you bring to the table? The focus is on you. And so I think it just goes back, and we have to really take a comprehensive approach and start grade kindergarten and begin to teach those basic skills and let it scaffold and build it each year, so that when students are graduating and they're entering college, then they have a better understanding of what AI should be used for and the beauty of it, and just use it with fidelity and responsibility.
Absolutely. You know your child's better than anybody. So bring out
Mhm.
what's the uniqueness of them, the things that you see that their teachers and other family members don't see, and
Mhm.
use it for their strength and say, no, no, not one type of AI machine can replace you. So
That's right.
I like what you
Exactly.
said there. It's very, very kind-hearted. I like that.
Thank you.
Natalia, I don't know, I didn't know if you want to take a shot at it or
No, I agree with what Kimberly said, and I think that still trying to find ways, like she said, to plug in that connection, that human connection, and making sure that so I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but I still love museums, right? I still love
Mhm.
going to
Yes.
places. I still love learning. Anytime I take a vacation, and people make fun of me, I need a balance of both. So I need to be able to relax on the beach, but I want to go someplace historical and actually learn something that I've never learned before. And I think that's the balance of both. So really just, yeah, we could use AI for research, we could use it for this, we could use it for that, but simply just going to places like museums and just researching and reading and doing all of that stuff also builds that's also research and learning to balance the both, but not only that, taking what you've learned. So let's say I've learned something when I went on vacation and I'm like, I want to think about this a little bit deeper. You can plug that into AI and get a little bit deeper in that connection. So you're really balancing the best of both worlds.
Mhm.
absolutely. And I have to mention this. People who know me, they're gonna start laughing. I'm a huge Hamilton fan. Surprise, surprise. Huge. And Lin-Manuel Miranda got the idea from Hamilton by reading on vacation with his wife. That's where the idea came. He was
Hmm.
reading a book on vacation at the beach or wherever he was. And he said, I think I'm going to make a musical about Alexander Hamilton. That's where it
Mhm.
came from. So it really isn't far fetched,
Mhm.
Natalia, because it could be sparked from anywhere, especially when your brain is relaxed. And I love the idea that you said of museums, because kids still like field trips. I don't see
Oh,
many
yeah.
field trips today. I know COVID kind of like put a damper in that a little bit. Kids love field trips. Find a local place. You don't even have to. Let's say you have one like big trip to a museum, right? And then maybe little other trips. My daughter, she's not even 2, so she's a baby. So she's not like, anybody else kids yet. But we took a field trip right around the house in a little circle and said, "Look, snow, grass, brown tree," and we went right back inside. That was her little field
Mhm.
trip. Now, of
Oh,
course,
yeah.
we didn't incorporate technology in it yet, but there is no limitations. Things don't always have to be so grand. You can do stuff with your child right at home and then
Yeah.
incorporate technology within it. You could still incorporate poster boards and coloring and make it fun. Um,
Mhm.
and then say, hey, we're going to plan one big trip a year. We're going to have a project from home. And then we're going to sit grandma and grandpa, auntie, uncle, cousins. We're going to sit them down and you're going to present it to your family. Your kids will love that. And, this is what we learned at the museum with mommy and daddy. Like, it's just there's nothing you can't do with your child. You don't have to just rely on school to teach them and to bring these things out. And then what's going to happen is you're going to see a transformation in your kids' mindset when it comes to looking at technology once you start incorporating it. And then I can't promise anything, but I can't see why their studies in school won't enhance when you start to have these things at home being done. So there really is no limit to what you can do. I'm not sure if any of the audience members had any questions that you want to put in the chat. I know sometimes it can be hard. Some people may be doing other things, but if you do have another question for our speakers here, by all means, drop it in the chat. If not, it's okay. I'm just gonna wait a minute. I don't want to like cut anybody off. I don't see anything popping up. Okay, if a question pops up, then that's totally fine. Last thing I just want to say before we kind of, wrap up and finalize everything here is I think what scares people about AI is again the rapidness of how it's moving without regulation. So in high school, if a cell phone went off in high school, it was like you get detention. It was very like traditional. The phones cannot be seen. They're trying to bring that back. I don't know how that's going to work, at least in New Jersey. But you see a cell phone, it's like can't do it. Now they're saying, hey, use your cell phone to do this project. The time has changed. But I think now what parents are concerned about is they're not being able to catch up with their child, which is a very understandable concern. So I think a lot of the things we said today, what Natalia said and what Kimberly said, it's really going to be something to think about. And I really think it cannot wait. I said this in the very beginning, you cannot prolong us changing our mindset of how we see technology, AI in our children. And to me personally, I am an educator. I have friends in the education system, in the K through 12 education system and higher ed, who are phenomenal teachers, absolutely phenomenal. But we cannot rely on our teachers to do a lot of this brunt work anymore. They are already burnt out themselves. So I know it's hard. I know it just seems like everything is, a kind of a lot, but it is really up to us to take care of it. And this can be, again, for parents, caretakers, grandparents, cousins, if you have friends that have kids. It's going to really take all of us to help influence our children's lives and other children's lives to keep up with this scary yet fascinating technology that has emerged in a very short amount of time. Once again, I just want to say thank you to Natalia and Kimberly. Y'all are always amazing. Every time you come on one of these webinars, I learn so much, and I know our audience learns so much as well. Before we go, exciting news is this is part of a spring series that we are doing for Coffee and Curriculum. So up until May, there will be a new webinar every single month. Next month, we have technology and faith, which is like, I don't know if the two goes together, but I've been, talking a lot to people within the church community is that there has to be a conversation about technology in the church and in religious organizations. A lot of times I think the church gets left behind with these conversations and they're kind of pushed to the side and we focus on everything else like nonprofits or education or companies, but no one is talking to religious organizations about technology and how to embrace an AI world. So that is happening next month. The QR code is on the screen. I'm also going to put the link in the chat as well on how to register. Share it with someone that you may think is interested in it. I do have the link is also going to be located on my Instagram as well. So coffee_curriculum is where you can follow us on Instagram. You can always email me if you have any questions. And then, of course, the schedule for April and May is also on there. April, we're going to be talking about AI ethics 101. So that's going to be a nice foundational one. So that's like general audience for anyone who's interested. And then finally, we have college readiness in the age of AI happening in May. And I'm excited. We're going to have Dr. Keisha White that's going to be on there in May, who's going to be talking about college readiness in the age of AI. So we have a lot of great stuff coming up. on my Instagram, under coffee underscore curriculum, we always put out stuff about education, AI, curriculum, everything. So if you want to always stay up to date in between the webinars, feel free to follow us on Instagram. I'm very happy with how today went. I think people were able to learn a lot. I learned a lot. And again, if you have any further questions, always feel free to email. The learning doesn't stop here after the webinar is over. If you have a question that popped up like 6 p.m. tonight, you're like, oh, I forgot, I should have asked this question. Go ahead and email us. We'll always be happy to answer it at some point, and I can always pass the question along to my colleagues here as well. So thank you all so much. Again, I'm going to put the link in the chat for you to register for the next webinar. And then I'm also going to put a link in the chat for a feedback survey for you all to fill out. So here is the feedback survey. That is the first link. And then to register for next month's webinar is going to be the second link. So once you copy those links, you all are free to kind of head out. I'll stop sharing my screen. But thank you all so much and take care.